and record it. So if you'll probably get some sort of notification that will come up. So I guess with that, I'll kick it over to our chair and he can do his thing.
All right, the hour of 5 o'clock having arrived, I'm going to call the special meeting of the Columbus Planning Commission for Thursday, December 16th, 2021 to order. Matthew, will you call the roll?
Sure. Monday,
Present.
Arnold,
Here.
Myers,
Here.
and Motif.
Present.
We do have a quorum. Tylen is excused. Both Andy Traxler and Brad Bastian indicated they'd be here, so I don't know if they're having technical difficulties or getting home to a computer or whatnot, but we do have a quorum, so we can proceed with the meeting.
I just want to check the speaker. Sorry. You can keep going if I'm distracted. I just want to try to hear it better.
Oh, it isn't on the. Oh. Okay.
Try it now. It might work better.
Mary, would you say something just to test out our system?
Sure. How you doing?
All right. I need to turn the volume up on this.
Yep.
All right. Should I do it all the way?
I would. It was pretty soft.
Okay. All right. We've done roll call.
All right.
Sorry.
We're on number 3, notice of open meeting. I'd like to state this meeting was posted in accordance with applicable local and state law.
Yes.
Very good. Item number 4, looking for a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
I move that we approve the agenda for tonight.
Motive will second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This is our agenda. All right. Item 5, minutes from last Thursday's meeting. Matthew kindly pulled it all together. Help give us a little refresher on where we're at. If you take a moment, please review, and then I'll entertain a motion either approving or amending. Take a motion anytime anybody's ready.
Motive will make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, minutes are approved. Item 6, any comments from citizens? None present, except for the administrator who's here. Anything in writing submitted to you, Matt?
No.
All right, takes care of item 6. Item 7, and really the only item on our agenda is unfinished business from last week, and that is 7A, consideration and possible action on request of ACS RBHS LLC for proposed zoning text amendment to 114-14 of the Columbus zoning code to allow multifamily development to have more than one principal structure on a lot of record. Matt, will
Sure.
you introduce it?
Yeah, I'll just give a recap from things that have led up to this and then the discussion last week. So as where the applicant went through a rezoning process for lot 6 and 7 of the Columbus Commerce Center and has been approved for that. in the days kind of leading up to, or in the time leading up to some sort of plan review, this 11414 was something that was brought up, that 11414 requires that basically residential properties can't have multiple principal buildings on one lot of record. So that means you either have to do it as one big apartment building, or you have to divide the lots into multiple lots and have one principal building per lot. So talking that through with the applicant, the course of action that was laid out was they ultimately requested a zoning text amendment to 11414 to allow more than one principal building on a lot of record for multifamily development. So that's kind of what brought us to the last meeting. At the last meeting, just kind of as a high-level overview, there were a few questions about procedure, i.e. who's going to be approving this, if this is plan commission approval or council approval, and then also submittals. What are you going to be approving? Are you approving a basic site plan? Are you approving basically a final site plan that staff's already reviewed? And then also, because there were questions about the setbacks due to the because previously this wasn't allowed for multifamily, so it wasn't as clear on what the setbacks would be specifically between the buildings. I mean, the front and rear and all the other standard setbacks are set by what the zoning code is, but really the only place that mentioned the distance between buildings was more for commercial or PUD. So that's where trying to bring that kind of to clarify what the setback should be for those types of issues. So essentially, because of all the questions that, and those are just a few, I don't know if that it catches 100% of the concerns or questions. Plan Commission elected to table to tonight's meeting. And then I did receive several comments and a draft ordinance from Commissioner Monday. And the staff reviewed this and then reviewed this also with City Attorney Johnson. He was on the phone or on the Zoom meeting tonight. And essentially what you have in your packet is kind of what this, the discussion from last meeting is we try to incorporate that into the proposed amendment. So it basically, there's 4 sections to it. It says no more than one principal building shall be located, erected, or moved onto a single lot of record in the city of Columbus, except as provided in the subsections below, and we'll get into those in a little bit. We clarify principal buildings shall be 24 feet away from other principal buildings. As I said, this is consistent with other parts of our code. And then also principal buildings shall be at least 10 feet away from detached accessory buildings. Once again, this is already consistent with other parts of our code, just clarifying it in this section. So I think it provides transparency to applicants, staff, everybody involved. Number 2 talks about any non-residential use and how you can go through a process to get more than one principal structure or principal building on a lot of record. And really it outlines 3 things that need to be submitted. One's the site plan, and the site plan as it's defined by 7815 D2 in our code. So it's a very specific listing. In addition to that, we're asking for building dimensions, use of buildings, and distances between buildings. Some of those were required under that section, but I included it here just because I just wanted to make sure it was clear that it was in both areas. And then a project narrative, and then a summary of basically the need to have the multiple principal buildings on the lot. And also kind of an explanation of how you're going to meet the underlying zoning. So in this case, they still have to meet all the R4 zoning, whether it's height, front yard, rear yard, all the setbacks are still applicable. And also like lot coverage, so green space versus pervious. And then item 3 would be probably the most interesting part to the applicant, because this is referring to multifamily. Once again, it's this kind of the same 3 things we're asking for. in the application process. And then 4, it also leaves in the option to do the PUD, planned unit development. So that's kind of what came out of the discussion and what we formulated. And as I said, this has been reviewed by staff, and I reviewed this with City Attorney Johnson. I would note that some of the discussion we had at the last meeting regarding updating other sections of the code. And if Paul wants to elaborate more, he can, but reviewing this proposed ordinance, Paul felt that you may not have to do the other ordinance changes because this is more general than what it was previously talking about when you're specifically calling out the R4 district. So he felt like the generalization kind of didn't necessarily trigger any other updates in other parts of the code. So I guess with that, I'm open for discussion and both applicants are here tonight if you have any further questions for them as well. So.
I just have one comment on section 1.
Yep.
The last statement there is almost defining the code. And is that the right place to be doing that? Should that just reference the code? Rather than, I mean, the next time something change something in the code, this would have to be changed. What you're trying to do there, you're trying to make sure that it's truly reference exactly what the distances and the offsets are, but this shouldn't be defining the code. The code should be referenced here, I think.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So can I ask, you said that there's no other place in the code where distances between principal buildings is defined?
Planned unit development.
Okay, but since this is not a planned unit development, we don't want to get into planned
Well-
unit development, it is appropriate to name it here.
Well, I felt more comfortable doing it here just because
Right,
the other areas, that you mentioned it wasn't as clear. The other thing you could always look at is, assuming these were all individual lots and individual buildings, theoretically speaking, for the R4 district with a 10-yard side yard setback, you'd have 20 feet in between the buildings. So that's something I think you could use as our justification, but I can't see anything below that. I preferred sticking with what we kind of currently have enforced or theoretically have enforced over the years with planned unit development. So
what I'm saying, Mike, is that there is no place in code that clearly says this is what the distance between principal structures is all the time. So we do have to name it here. The accessory structure, though, is that named elsewhere?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that part could probably be stricken to avoid having potential conflicts in the future.
Or change the code to clearly define it.
Right. But I think what the aim is here tonight, in my opinion, is to provide something that stands alone, addresses the concern of the applicant so they can move forward. And then I think, at least I'm going to acknowledge, I think there are other things that we could do in code to help tighten things up. But this can stand alone. It
Yeah.
doesn't provide any conflicting information with anything else. And then they can move on and we can kind of also make adjustments later without having to make adjustments to rectify inconsistency.
So we would amend this when we go and try to rewrite the code, or whoever would rewrite that.
Right. We get something done tonight that everybody can agree on, that stands alone, doesn't conflict with other parts of the code. And then if later we want to make the code better, we can. We're just not
Okay.
forced to undo conflicts.
Okay.
So anyway, I agree with you, Mike, that last sentence in number 1 probably is a duplicate, and I would support striking that.
I would not. If I may, I think that it's there for a reason, because remember right now, 114.14 doesn't allow this at all, except by a PUD. And so there's nothing in your current code that says where the principal, how far apart the principal buildings can be or should be. So that's why the language is is in there to set a standard. If you strike it, which you can do, then you're going to leave the distance between buildings up to the plan commission's discretion every time a site plan comes in, and you don't really have any guidance. And that works too if you do it that way, but you just have to understand that you're going to leave it open on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes a developer might come in with 10 feet between buildings, and sometimes it might be 30 between buildings, and there's really no standard.
Sorry, Paul, I'm only talking about the reference of principal to accessory should be strict. And the part
Oh,
principal to principal should stay.
okay, all right. So the last sentence is what you're looking at.
The very last sentence,
Correct.
yes, the
Okay.
relationship of principal to accessory. Okay. Any other general comments from commissioners? I've got some information I want to share to kind of give some of the thought process background, but okay, hearing none. So first of all, yeah, I want to acknowledge that, yeah, this 114-14 really did deserve some amending to accommodate the multifamily, right? But, Jim and Steve, that's, I think, very appropriate that it get done here. I'll say that some of my concern at the last meeting had to, my concern revolved around having multiple buildings on a lot where somebody from, a neighboring property might want to object. And as I thought about it more over the weekend, I realized really my concern has to do with the number of total units, not the number of buildings. Right? So I was, the more I thought about it, the more I realized I was maybe focused on the wrong thing. Okay. So I went back and I looked through our code for our floor development, and just to share with the commissioners, what that says is any multifamily development can have buildings that are up to 30 feet in height with certain setbacks. You can go up to 50 feet with a greater setback. You have to have 2 interior parking stalls per unit. You have to have no more than 40% roof area on the lot. And as I read through that and thought about some of the things that Commissioner said, particularly Commissioner Traxler, in that the code would kind of take care of itself, it came to realize more that that's, I think, maybe what he was aiming at, right? Based on the other restrictions in the code, there's really kind of so much you can do. So I did some quick math, like if you had a single large building where all of the parking was drive under, you might fit, by my estimate, 42 units on per acre on a lot, okay? That's fairly high density. When I looked at what this proposal had, it's on the order of half of that number, like 20 units per acre. And looking at the proposal for their development, that doesn't seem like overwhelming or out of bounds of what you might, see on anything else. So what I want to do is write something for the ordinance that would fill in what I thought were the soft areas, the gray areas, so that this could get past a development like the one at present could get worked on. And then if there are concerns with the rest of the code in the future, we can work that out. Like, for instance, for me, I'd maybe be comfortable with talking about a proposal where there's a maximum number of units on a multifamily lot that kicks it into a conditional use or something like that. We don't have to talk about those things tonight, but that's kind of where my brain went. Also, no, that's it. So I wanted to explain some of that background. Any other comments? Okay.
When would we have the ability to ask questions? Are you just still looking for questions?
I was just about to call on you, Jim.
Oh, okay, all right, sorry, I jumped the gun.
So go ahead.
So I had two questions. First, just again, to understand where in the rest of the code, you're talking about principal buildings shall be at least 24 feet away from other principal buildings. I know I asked Matt the question earlier today, and he said it is in the code. I guess I'm just kind of curious as to, is that part of the R4 zoning, or where is?
It is under the PUD zoning requirements right now, because right
It
now
is.
it's not permitted in the R4. So I was looking at the standard where we do permit it currently, and the only place we currently permit it is if it's a planned unit development. So
Okay,
hence why the 24, and I try to keep it consistent with what has been or should have been enforced in the past.
okay, not a problem. I was
That's
just
where
kind
that came
of
from.
curious where that came from. Then the other question I have is in 3A, there was the provision added where it's talking about site plan is defined by 78-15 sub D sub 2. So I guess I just wanted to get clarity on my end that it's specifically just referencing that paragraph where it talks about the requirements for a site plan, because it's kind of, it's site plan is referred to in this section in more than just in that area. You mean the section 78-15 is referenced as site plan, and then 78-15D, it's referencing contents of a site plan. And there are a number of subsections under there that's, recalling requirements: building plans, grading and stormwater plans, lighting plans, landscaping plans. I guess I just wanted to make sure that you're not referencing that all of those requirements are needed, because that basically is essentially then a PUD.
Well, for the time being, I did put, it's only referring to 2, which defines what a site plan is. It's not requiring, the other items will be needed at a certain point. And certainly, if Plan Commission and Council felt that all the other plans are needed at that time, they could certainly do so. But at this time, I feel for the Plan Commission to grant you approval to have multiple principal buildings on one lot, they should be looking at a fairly detailed site plan.
So
Those
just
are the
section,
requirements I outlined, because that's
Yeah.
what's in code.
no, I understand. So you're just talking about just section 2, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M under that section. Because I guess where my confusion is if you look under 78-15 section D, it talks about contents of site plan.
Yeah,
And it says a site plan requirement under this section shall contain all the following. And then
correct.
you've got project narrative, site plan, and then site plan is described again.
Correct.
So-
But,
It specifies parentheses 2, which is the A
Thank
through
you.
M you just read off.
Okay, that's all I wanted to get confirmation about.
Right.
Yep.
Because like I said, site plan's kind of defined twice in there, and so it's a little
That's why
confusing.
parentheses 2 is important. That's why it's in there.
Oh, okay, all right. Very good. Thank you. That was all the questions I had.
I can't see, is Steve on? Does Steve have any
Steve's
questions?
on.
He's on.
I'm here.
No questions, Steve?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Anything else from commissioners? Well, great.
So the recommendation is to.
Right, so Mike's asking, like, if we put.
You're looking probably at the previous memo.
Yes, probably. Yeah.
I think, based on my discussion with the city attorney and what's in the current proposed amendment, staff is comfortable with what's being proposed. recommends moving it forward.
Okay, so any final questions? If there are, please ask them. If there are not, I will entertain a motion.
Actually, I want to ask something of Paul real quick.
Sure.
Just so, just so it's clear and on the record, and I'm wondering, would it be overkill to put also a clause in here that basically states that the underlying zoning of the property is also in effect? So it's clear that, if you're R4, you have to meet all the setbacks in that, or it doesn't exempt you from anything else from the zoning code. Should that be in this section or not? Or is that just overkill?
I think you can include that language if you want to, but I don't think you need to, because 114.14 isn't going to change the underlying zoning of what the parcel is. And that kind of leads into why I don't think we need to adjust the table, or we don't need to adjust 114.60 anymore, because when this was first filed, it was just to change R4. But now it's for all of the multifamily zoning and all the commercial districts. So the underlying zoning is going to stay the same unless the applicant is going to ask to rezone as well, which normally won't be the case.
Okay.
It's also a little bit implied under item C under both 2 and 3. They have to provide a summary of how the proposal meets the lot building requirements for the zoning district applicable to the lot.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that, just because I was, yeah.
I don't want to complicate things, but I do want to point out that the site plan requirement that's named does require the seal of a professional engineer as one item, and it also requires a scientific wetland delineation and concurrence from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. Now,
Which they've already done the wetland delineation for
Right.
these.
so they have done this on this particular thing. I guess I want to have an open conversation on whether that is overkill for the presentation to Plan Commission, right, for a proposal to have multiple lots. And or if that's appropriate at that stage. It'll have to be done eventually, but I think what we were trying to do here was strike a balance between enough information to bring to the Plan Commission so that the commission had a comfort level with the proposal, and doing, kind of quote unquote, too much. Go ahead, Matt.
So I guess my comment to that is, the Plan Commission should be reviewing, in all instances, whether it's this or conditional use or zoning, the most detailed set of plans that they could possibly have, right? And if there's a property that, the plans could change drastically, if there are wetlands that can't be remediated, or, that would change a lot of layouts for site plans. So that would really make your kind of approval, it could change it to something where there could be something where maybe they don't meet zoning, maybe there's other issues. Point is you should be proving what they're going to build, not what they, or you should be approving what they intend to build. And it shouldn't be contingent upon other reviews. It should basically be, you should be the final say. So that's kind of why, leaving that in there, I think makes sense. I mean, that's part of their due diligence.
Sure. Thoughts from other commissioners on that?
If I could give a comment from the private side.
Yeah, go ahead.
So again, I think, I don't want to confuse just this section with the overall approval. I mean, this section is specifically just dealing with allowing more than one principal structure on a lot. It's not giving a final site plan approval or anything like that. It's just, it allows a developer to proceed accordingly without basically spending an arm and a leg on all of the various due diligence that is required in a project. So speaking from, a private side of things, I mean, I think if you guys want to spur on development within the city, you can't make it so cost prohibitive to analyze and explore a project. It needs to be done in phases, i.e., okay, we're looking at a site. All right, we've got ideas for it. If it's zoned correctly, fine. We're going to start with a concept plan, essentially. And the first part of that concept plan for R4 zoning, for instance, would be, can we have multiple buildings on one lot? Because that's going to then dictate how we progress from that point moving forward. If the plan commission says, sure, we're on board with it, we'll allow more than one buildings on site, okay, well, then we can start taking the necessary steps, knowing full well that at various points throughout the process, things may have to change based on more due diligence that's uncovered, i.e. floodplain, wetland, et cetera. But I guess, again, what we're looking for in this amendment is just a first basic step of, are you guys on board with allowing more than one building on the site? That's at its most simplistic. So again, just speaking from a private developer's point of view.
Yeah, I was trying to put myself in those shoes too, Jim, when I kind of named those two things specifically, but all the other ones in A through M in that section seem to be something that, yeah, you'd have to take some care putting them all on a 2-scale plan. But like, for instance, in that section, it doesn't even require grading or stormwater management. And all the other things in there, you don't need a PE to stamp, right? Once you get into the site design of all that other stuff, you'll definitely need one. But at that particular stage, I don't know. Just to explain the wetland thing, there's good, fairly reliable wetland mapping available online through the DNR. So using that at sort of that first step in the door to do due diligence, right? And due diligence means different things depending on where you are in a project, right? If you're about to start digging, you've done a lot more due diligence than you have at the point where you've, started to think about project, right? So anyway, those were the couple of things that so like I said, I don't want to make it more complicated, but I'm trying to fulfill the intent of getting enough on paper to bring the plan commission to have a developer have confidence to go forward, right? And find that middle ground. Any further discussion from commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion to recommend approval to council as written, or recommend approval to council with some amendments, or recommend denial.
I'm sorry I got interrupted there for a couple of minutes, and I just want to, it seems to me that what's happening here is that we will allow the proposal to go through, but we still have the accountability, correct? So I'm much more comfortable approving what's been requested of us, but I guess I would just want to double check.
Yep.
It sounds like that's what I'm hearing tonight from everybody, and Paul, from you also, correct? Okay, good. Thank you.
Does anybody care to make a motion?
Alder Motive can make, I don't have to use that here, sorry. Motive can make a motion to accept the ordinance as it's written.
All right, do you mean as presented in the packet from tonight?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye,
Aye.
I,
opposed? All right, we have our recommendations council for amending the zoning code.
Can you tell us, Matt, what the next couple meetings are? That this
The
will-
1221 Cal, this is already on the agenda, and I have to finish typing the memo tomorrow morning, or maybe even tonight, and then the January 4th council, 4th, yeah. So those are
January
the next
4th.
two meetings, yep,
Okay. Thank you.
yep.
All right, any new business anybody wants to bring to the table?
Well, you can't, it's not on the agenda.
Number 8, new business.
Well, okay, I leave it on there because that's the standard format that we need to use.
I guess we're going on to number 9. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motive will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
They have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you for your extra time, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merry
Good
Christmas,
night.
everybody.
Night.
All right.